Good evening, everyone. I figured I would do a sort of last minute edition of a holiday shopper's guide, or just in general, how to buy gifts for a gamer. Future me wanting to interject really quickly here at the beginning. This, by list of recommendations for gamers, is video gamers. Now, if you're wanting recommendations for board games, there's thousands of channels that are good for that. Personally, I like the Dice Tower. I find their videos to be pretty pleasant to watch and usually pretty neutral enough that it doesn't really matter what type of person you are. You're probably not going to be offended by anything they put out. So they're a decent channel to check out if you need recommendations for board games. And if we're talking about tabletop RPGs, probably can find something on their site as well, because they consider those board games as well. But this is a video for video games specifically. Anyway, back to the main video. And I'm not going into a super huge amount of detail in terms of specific game recommendations. This is just general tips that if you have a gamer in your life that you want to shop for, and your budget's somewhere between $20 and, well, to be honest, several $100s, some things that you may want to consider while you're looking around for stuff to get them. Tip number one, and this will seem obvious to anyone that's actually a gamer, know what you're shopping for. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, first off, PC or console. There's generally two different categories of gamer, at least in terms of what they primarily play. And that would be either they play on their PC at home, in which case, to be honest with you, shopping for them is going to be just a bit harder than if they are a console gamer. Console gamers have something like that guy in the background right here that they tend to play their games on. I actually have both. I play on both, and anymore it's not that uncommon for people to actually do both. But you need to know what they primarily play on, what they prefer. And beyond that, if they prefer their console, which one? There's currently three big ones that are being pretty regularly pulled out by people. You have an Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. Now, Nintendo has the newest console in the market, and if the person that you're buying for is a Nintendo gamer, congratulations, you're probably going to have to spend somewhere from $60 plus to buy them a game or something along those lines if you actually want to get them something. However, if the person happens to play on PlayStation or Xbox, you have a little bit broader range in terms of costs. And if the person plays on PC, there's a ton of things that are actually free on PC, but obviously for a gift, you're not going to be looking to get something free. So, that is a basic thing out of the way, and that sort of falls into line with what a couple of my tips are going to really boil down to. You actually have to talk to the person a little bit about the hobby of theirs to know what they're into, what they like. Because this is a really broad topic. From an outsider's perspective, it seems like it should be really simple, but there's actually quite a bit of complexity that goes into video games, just as much as what goes into movies or books or any other art form out there, because at the end of the day, it really is an art form. Music, there's just tons of information that can change how you would approach this buying guide. Second tip, know the person's genre preference. Now, it's not a coincidence that I made the comparison between movies and books just a minute ago and music. I don't know that you would so much use the term genre with art, although I guess you could. But the genre of game is going to dramatically change how it's played, and people tend to have a preference towards a few genres. A couple people find themselves falling firmly into one particular category, but for a lot of people, there's at least a couple that they like. Is the person a sports gamer? In which case, I'm sorry to tell you, but they probably already have all the games that they want for this year because the regular sports release cycle has already happened. Now, there's a couple people that update at Christmas, but if that's the case, you're probably already well aware of what you're going to be getting them. If they like RPGs, good news, there's a ton of them, but narrowing down exactly which one to get, you're probably going to have a few more conversations with them, although RPG players, generally pretty easy to please as long as it's one they've not already played. ARPG, you have CRPGs, you have action games, you have action RPGs. There's a metric ton of games. Platformers are another big one. You sort of need to know what genre they like, and you also need to know a little bit about their playing preferences. What games have they played? If you're actually wanting to get a current one. Now, granted, if you're looking at buying a current game, your budget's probably going to be between $60 and $80 minimum. Then there's the question of, are you going to buy a standard edition, deluxe edition, ultra deluxe edition, super ultra deluxe limited edition? I would say, honestly, for a gift, unless you're buying this for a child and you're really feeling like bumping up the quality for it, sticking with the basic edition is just fine because you're already getting what is, for most people, a relatively expensive gift. And you're saving them the bulk of the money by getting the base game. If they want the DLC or any of the extras, most games nowadays come with the option to actually upgrade the game to the next edition up. Pay a little bit more, pay basically the difference between the retail version for the base game and that edition, and they can upgrade. So I wouldn't stress too much over which version to get. Get them the baseline version and let them upgrade as they want to. Again, unless you're actually buying for your child and you're getting them a game in a series that you know they're fanatical for, in which case you're really probably not watching this video. You probably already know what you're getting them. Next would be, are they a retro gamer or a modern gamer or a little bit of both? And if they're a bit of both, you actually have a very broad range in terms of what gifts you can get. Retro gamers prefer older games. For me, retro games that I like are things like Zelda here. That was a game from my childhood. This is actually my copy from when I was a kid. Unfortunately, and as much as I don't like to admit it, stuff like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 era games are now at this point becoming retro. I would say PlayStation 3 is probably getting there. So, fortunately for you as a gift giver, that means there is a big, broad range of games you can get. So, what are some tips for buying retro games versus modern? By the way, modern would be anything that's been released on current generation systems. So, just as an aside, those will be the ones that you can go to Walmart and just buy straight off the shelf. Retro games are the ones where you're going to have to go to a specialty shop. Like GameStop would be the easiest one to find, but this is really where more mom and pop shops are going to come in handy. So living in a bigger area is going to benefit you, or being cunning in how to use eBay and a few other online auction sites. But what do you look for with a retro game? So the first thing is the actual source of the media intact? And for stuff like these guys back here, for cartridges, it's not as bad as doing things that are on disc, because in more recent generations, discs have really more been CD keys that have unlocked a game, and I'm not sure how much value there is in buying them, but when you go back far enough, the whole game is actually on either the disc or the cartridge. And this would be an example of one where all the games are actually on the disc. So, original PlayStation titles, things like Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, and actually most of Nintendo's consoles, your stuff will be on cartridges, with the exception being Wii, Wii U, and GameCube. But even with those games, you'd be okay because Nintendo actually, up until very recently, had the games on the cartridge. But what are you normally looking for when you're buying a retro game? You want the actual cartridge or the disc. You want the box, and if it's an old enough game to still have it, the booklet or any other extra materials that came with it. The more of those things you get, the higher the price is going to be. Like, finding an actual cartridge for the very first Final Fantasy game that came out is not that terrible as far as retro game purchases go, but finding one where you have the cartridge, the box, and the map and booklets that came with it, and suddenly it becomes a very pricey game where you can get into the hundreds of dollars. Or in some games, you can get up to thousands of dollars thanks to the grading companies. If you played any sort of card game, you can actually send off retro games now intact to go get them graded, get a PSA grade for them. And I feel like that's done more damage to the hobby than good. It's added a lot of value to it, but it's made it extremely difficult to actually get good quality retro games now because people are buying them and sealing them up and never playing them. What you're probably going to be looking to do as a gift giver for this is buying a game that you're going to expect that they're going to play, which means don't worry about them coming in a case. Just be sure the actual game is intact itself. So, cartridge games, one thing you can do is pop them off, take a look, and make sure that the components on the inside at least look okay, look intact, don't look chipped. Most shops are going to play test their games. So if you're buying in person, a lot of them have popped them up, turn them on, make sure that they're still running, make sure that anything like, say, a battery in them that might need to be replaced, like these older carts have little tiny button batteries in them that were the things that are used to maintain the saves. A person can do that at home, but it's a lot nicer when someone else has done it for you. However, There are counterfeits for a lot of these old cartridges, so you're going to have to do a little bit of research unless you just go to a shop and you're picking some stuff up because you think it looks kind of interesting. In which case, if you don't know a lot about the genres that we talked about in the previous step, talk to the shop owners. They will be generally more than happy to help you. The only place where I probably wouldn't recommend talking to the person running the shop is GameStop, and that's because, well, okay, little asterisk here. GameStop will be fine as long as it's not someone that's like a manager. And this isn't to throw shade at the managers, but their job is to push stuff. The regular sales associates, if their manager's not within earshot, they'll make recommendations to you that are genuine recommendations. They'll actually sort of walk you through. They're going to ultimately want to make a sale because they make commissions off of those sales. But you're more likely to get genuine help out of a mom and pop shop than you are out of a GameStop, because GameStop falls under some of that same sort of corporate pressures. There's a lot of criticisms to have for it, but GameStop's still better than nothing. They're not a don't ever go there type of place. They're just there's a reason why this mega corporation that appeals to what is a continually growing industry is still on the verge of failing. And a meme more or less revived it, when in reality GameStop deserved to go out of business because of the way they've done their business practices over the last couple of years, including how they treat their employees. But that's a whole other topic. Anyway, back on the topic of buying a retro game. Just have a little bit of fun with it. Be sure you know what they collect, though, because not everyone collects every retro game. I buy some Super Nintendo games when I see something that's interesting. I buy PlayStation games when I see something that's interesting with them. Those were the ones that I played as a kid. I'm not really interested in getting anything else from any other system. Most retro gamers are that way. They have very particular interests, and they don't really have much beyond that they actually want to buy. It's, as it is with almost any other collecting hobby. Like, if you like music, you tend to buy music from very particular people. You don't tend to buy just broad whatever comes across your way unless you're planning on opening up a shop or something. So, talk to the person you're getting the gift for. Figure out what they're interested in. You don't necessarily need to get a game that they specifically want, but if you know both the genre and the system they want it for, you can usually do a pretty good blind guess at that point. Tip number 4. Avoid peripherals unless you've been asked to buy something very specific. What do I mean by peripherals? In general, we're talking about things like controllers or other items that may actually be used to play the game or interact with the game. You could stretch it out to include things like gaming chairs and whatnot. So, accessories, stuff that's not just the game. Why do I say avoid them? It can be tempting because there's a lot of relatively cheap accessories and peripherals out there, but they're exactly that. It's not just that the price is cheap, it's just that a lot of the times the quality is also cheap. There are exceptions, but if you know little enough about gaming to be coming to a guide like this to buy a gift, you don't want to be buying accessories, because what's going to end up happening is you're going to pump money into something as a gift thinking you're doing well, which the intention is still there. The intention is good. You're just probably trying not to spend hundreds of dollars, but you're trying to get them something in the area that they're interested in. But cheap peripherals are just that. They may last and they may do what they want to for a little, or what they're supposed to for a little bit, but they usually break very easily, or they don't quite function the way that they're supposed to. Or, in the case, let's say someone's a competitive gamer, some things just don't work well in a competitive setting. You kind of need to know a little bit about what you're going into with peripherals, more so than even just buying games. Like, you can blind buy someone a game, and they can end up enjoying it. Like, if someone gets an RPG and gives it to me, it doesn't really matter what system it's on. I can figure out a way to play it. Then I'm going to be happy. Whether I've played it before or not, and even if I have played it before and probably didn't like it, if they give it to me, I'm going to play it again, try it out. It's a genre that I really enjoy. I don't mind testing it out and going back into it. Same thing with things like creature collectors and whatnot. But peripherals, people have a lot of preferences when it comes to how they play, and those preferences heavily mold how they decide to pick up accessories, if they buy them at all. I don't buy them, period. Occasionally, I might get something as a decorative accessory, but I otherwise have no interest in getting a third-party controller or getting anything along those lines. People will let you know if there's an accessory that they want, so if you're in here mostly looking for a kid, I would say I don't think you're going to be trying to get a gaming accessory for someone that's just a buddy. Then you probably have some idea what you're looking for. Yet again, won't be looking in this guide. Tip number 5. Seriously consider getting a gift card. Now, why do I say that? There's a lot of digital items that people will not bring themselves to buy with their own currency or with cash, but you give them a gift card for the platform that they like to play on, and suddenly they're more willing to buy some cosmetic DLC that they otherwise would bypass. So you're basically getting them something to give them permission to waste money. Now, few tips right up front. Don't just get a general Visa gift card. They do work sometimes, but I've actually had an issue myself where I gave one to a person that, we'll just say, we gave it to this person for Christmas one year, and they were going to use it to buy, I think, a skin in Valorant. I can't remember the exact game, but where they went to spend it on Valorant, for some reason, it was flagged as a potential scam. And we had to get in touch with the actual company that issued it, say no, it wasn't a scam. But because they had already blocked the card, they had to actually reissue a whole new card. It took like 2 weeks for it to come in the mail. It was all sorts of hullabaloo over a skin for, I think, a weapon. Whereas most of the time, if someone actually spends a lot of time playing a game, so you have to know a little bit about what they play. PlayStation Network has cards you can get that give you currency for PlayStation. Steam, which is the computer game source, has gift cards you can get for Steam. Same thing with Xbox Live. There's gift cards you can get for people to buy stuff out of the Microsoft Store for it. And on. Like, I'm pretty sure Epic sells gift cards. I don't know about them. I don't play that much on theirs, but even an Amazon gift card can be used to buy game stuff or other things. So if they decide they don't want a game, they can get something else. And another good thing about gift cards is it's one of the few ways to tap into giving someone a gift themed around gaming without having to really break the bank. Like $20 would be about the minimum I would give on one of these, just because that usually enables some pretty decent gifts. I think realistically you can go as low as you want to. I mean, you can afford what you can afford. The idea is you're giving a gift and you're trying to give a gift that's within their interest anyway. So realistically, the amount shouldn't matter. But this allows you to go a little bit lower than the threshold of somewhere around $60 for a cheaper new game, whereas a lot of new games are actually costing upwards of $80 now. So this is a decent way to go about it if you just don't have a lot to spend, but you still want to get something gaming related. Not to mention, like I said, it gives them the excuse to go ahead and waste it on something they probably wouldn't otherwise waste it on. Like, just to give you an example for myself, I'm not going to buy any of the cosmetic DLC packs for Monster Hunter because I can't justify spending the money on it. But if I suddenly popped up with a $15 or $20 gift card for PlayStation Network, I would probably buy the next weapon cosmetic DLC just because it looks cool. There's a lot that can actually be said that's beneficial about gift cards in this sense. And by tailoring it to a specific network, you're still showing that you've actually paid a bit of attention to what the person's preferences are. So don't think of it as a cop-out. Think of it as this is a complex category to get gifts in, and you're saving yourself and potentially them a lot of headache. Another tip I would sort of give you would be to actually save receipts. Now, I know normally it's kind of tacky to show how much a gift cost. However, if you're going in with something like a retro game, or if you're doing, I don't know, even a new one or something along those lines, and you're just genuinely not sure that they're going to like it, and you don't mind if they actually tell you straight up, yeah, this is not my thing, or, and this is really the big one in my mind, they actually already own it. This will give them a way to swap it out. Like, you can, from most places, get a gift receipt that will sort of keep things a little bit more anonymized, but realistically, just the regular receipt should work. And the big one is that last one. And now, one thing you could do if you feel like doing a little bit of cyber stalking, PlayStation, Steam, and Xbox all have basically publicly searchable profiles if the person has had their profile made public. And you can kind of browse through their achievements and actually take a quick look to see if they've played that game. But if you know how to do that, you probably know enough to just ask them. be the easiest thing to do. Just say, hey, what sort of games have you played? Or, here's something. Get a list of games that you've got in mind that you think might be worthwhile to get them. It doesn't take a lot of browsing online to figure out what a few good ideas might be. And just cross-reference it with them. You can find a way to have a casual conversation with them. Hey, you been playing anything lately? They'll tell you what all they've been playing. Oh, cool. Have you ever tried anything from this genre? Oh, really? How about these games? I've heard it's actually interesting, and someone was talking about it, and I thought about maybe picking it up to test it out myself. It's an easy way to drop a hint on it to figure out whether or not they've actually tried it. Like I said, I'm not going to give many game recommendations, but really quickly, I'll try to pop up a list of the winners from the Game Awards, and that would be a good thing to browse through. Just pull up the Game Awards and look at the nominees in each category. And almost all of those are pretty well certain to be a good game to the majority of people. Winning the Game Award doesn't mean it's a good game, but there has to be at least some popularity there for it to get nominated to begin with. It's really rare that you see something that's purely an industry plant, no matter what people scream about it. There probably almost certainly is some industry influence in terms of who ultimately wins and loses. However, it has to have gained some traction to begin with to get up there. There was another gaming ceremony here that had similar Game of the Year type nominations. Those sources are usually good to go to for a list of modern games. They're not going to be super useful for a list of retro games, but yet again, for retro recommendations, honestly, we could be here all day for a whole separate video on that. If you want a really quick one, Illusion of Gaia on the Super Nintendo. To me, an extremely underrated old school game. Worth picking up. PlayStation, probably Parasite Eve is a sort of underappreciated but fun old school horror survival RPG-ish type of game. Nintendo 64, you can't go with a Nintendo system. You can't go wrong with any sort of Mario. But to be honest with you, the older Mario games are going to cost you a fortune to get a copy that's playable. Thank you, grading agencies. So, no, if you want to go retro, you're talking thousands upon thousands of games. It's even true for the modern era. Picking the specific game is the hardest part, and there's no way I can actually give you a recommendation that's going to guaranteed work for who you're trying to get one for unless you know them. Yet again, tip number 1, know what you're looking for. This is not the type of gift to give to just a random person that you really don't know that well, unless you're a gamer too, in which case, if there's a game that you love, give that to them. Seriously. If you're a gamer and you're watching this, number 1, I don't really know why, unless you're just wanting to critique it, which is fine. Leave critiques down below. Tell me any other advice, or anyone else advice that you may want to give on this one. But if you're a gamer, give a game that you love to someone that you know hasn't played it. That would be an excellent gift. I have played plenty of games that I have no interest in just because close friends of mine have said, hey, I really enjoy this. And it's like, okay, let me give it a shot. If you're watching this and you're really confused about what to get, leave a comment below. I'll try to help you figure out something. Or someone in the comments probably will. I'll do what I can. Channel's not so big that it should be difficult to answer that many questions, although, you never know. Maybe this will be the one that blows up. Those are the main recommendations that I could think of that should help sort of guide the gift-giving process. And a lot of them boil down to just know your friend or your family member. If you know them well enough, this shouldn't be terribly difficult to at least get in a good ballpark for them. If you don't know them that well, probably just find a different category of gift to give. Number 1, this is a relatively pricey area to buy gifts in. Number 2, it does require knowing a bit about the person, and there's plenty of types of gifts that you can get that don't really require knowing that much about them. Anyway, I hope you find what you're looking for, and have fun shopping.